Alright, boys and girls, I'm going to give you a little bit of advice here. Modern technology has advanced in such a way that you can tell exactly where your arrow hits every single time you shoot it, which is awesome. I love Lumenoks, always have. Makes for really good TV, and it makes for ethical tracking of deer when you know exactly where you hit them. You know, I smoked him, or man, we ought to give him a second or two. So, one of the questions I get sometimes at shows and different things about people that have gone out and bought Lumenoks, just a couple quick things. They're supposed to fit tight in your arrow. So don't sand them down. If you bought Lumenoks for your right size arrow, the inside diameter, this is my traditional setup, but I shoot X-Noks in both my setups. They happen to be the same inside diameter. There's a right and a wrong way to turn them off. I see guys, man, like their Lumenoks fit in there tight and they're trying to turn them off with their fingers and they twist them. You never want to spin a Lumenok because it'll mess the inside of your arrow up. You're starting to cut into the end of your arrow, which you want to keep your end of your arrow square. You don't want to do that. You don't want to just crank on it with your fingertips either, because you could end up making the plastic weak and doing a lot of bad damage. What you want to do, I mean, you can turn them off with your fingers if they're not too tight. Like that one's not too bad, and I can turn it right off. So what I would recommend though is, I would recommend shooting a lighted knot, because it's just a great idea. See exactly where you hit every time. I'll have to bear with me while I dig in my bag here. What I've done is you take an extinguisher off of Lumenok's website, and I cut mine in half so that I can take half of it and put it in this bag, and I put the other half in another bag. And all you got to do, the extinguisher does what it says. You slip it over the end of your arrow, clamp it down, wiggle it a few times, turns your knock off. It's because that rubber grips it and it shakes it off in little increments, so it just backs that knock just slightly. I mean, if you look at that knock right now, it didn't hardly move it a millimeter, but it was enough to break contact with the metal that turns the battery on, that turns the light on in there, makes the connection. So if you get lighted knocks, which you should, get Lumenok because they're the best, and then don't crank on them sideways. Don't crank on them real hard with your hand. Just get the extinguisher, piece of cake, wiggle it a few times, your knock turns off, put it back in your quiver. You don't have to worry about it cutting back on or anything else. So that's my advice to y'all. Do what you will with it. I like to see where my arrows hit, and I like not screwing my arrows up when I turn it off.
Do a little bit more so you can get that as a tight.
Okay. That actually is really good too. You can screw your Lumenoks bad, and you can mess your arrow up, and you can unsquare the end of your arrow. And one of the biggest things too is people kill the batteries in their Lumenok because they think they got it off, and it goes off for a second, but then it kind of cinches back down. And then their batteries go dead and they don't work when they need to. Look how bright that thing is. It's not even dark yet. It's crazy. Waggle it off. Pretty slick. Pretty slick. Doesn't take much, man. It's crazy. You sit there, the crazy thing is they'll be so tight sometimes. You can sit there and crank on them with your fingers, and the other thing I've seen people do is they'll bite them. Like, bite them and try to pull them like back to turn them off, and you're compromising the integrity of the plastic, so now you're in danger of the knock exploding when you turn it loose, much less affecting your accuracy. All you got to do is buy that inexpensive little piece of rubber, and like I said, I got 3 of them, and then just cut them all in half and drop the cut off end in all of my packs. So I got one in my backpack, one in my archery kit, one here, one in my shop, so I always got something that I can turn that Lumenok off with.